It's a constitutional mistake. I'd like to thank Tom for his passionate defence of our constitution. It's quite important that people know how it is, how it's different from other constitutions, and how it works. Parliament is supreme. It's really quite a mistake for the Lady Chief Justice to have done this. I call this Versailles thinking. There seems to be an air of going around that certain elite people are above or beyond criticism, can do all sorts of extraordinary things. It could pass an act specifically overturning this case if it wanted to. It can pass an act sacking judges if it wants to.
A bombshell ruling has just shaken Britain to its core. The Chief Justice has declared Keir Starmer's advice to the Queen unlawful, void, and of no effect, sending shockwaves through Westminster and beyond. But what does this unprecedented verdict actually mean for the Prime Minister's grip on power? And why is King Charles reportedly furious about the £22 billion in taxpayer money that's mysteriously vanished? Stay with me as I break down exactly how this legal earthquake could change everything. Let's talk about what's truly at stake here. The Chief Justice's ruling against Starmer isn't merely some arcane legal dispute that will be forgotten by next week's news cycle. It's the first piece in what might become the most spectacular governmental collapse we've witnessed in decades.
However, a family of 6 from Gaza have applied to live in Britain using this scheme, and a judge has now ruled in their favour. This is not what the scheme was designed to do.
She asked me if we're going to change the law and close the loophole in question 1. I said yes.
This decision is completely wrong. It cannot be allowed to stand. Is the government planning to appeal on any points of law? And if so, which ones?
The verdict itself is unprecedented in its scope and language. The Chief Justice didn't mince words when declaring Starmer's advice to the Queen unlawful, void, and of no effect. This phraseology is particularly damning because it strikes at the very heart of our constitutional monarchy. When a Prime Minister's counsel to the sovereign is deemed unlawful, it undermines the entire foundation upon which our government operates. What makes this ruling particularly explosive is how it connects directly to the financial black hole that's opened up under Starmer's watch. We're not talking about accounting errors or budget miscalculations. We're facing the shocking disappearance of £22 billion in taxpayer money. This isn't pocket change we're discussing.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative government established the Ukraine Family Scheme, and in total, over 200,000 Ukrainians, mostly women, children and the elderly, have found sanctuary in the UK from Putin's war.
Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. I do not agree with the decision. She's right. It's the wrong decision.
Given this crazy decision,
She complains about scripted answers and questions. Her script doesn't allow her to listen to the answer.
These funds were earmarked for critical infrastructure projects, essential public services, and measures meant to stabilize our economy during turbulent times. The contrast between what was promised and what's been delivered couldn't be starker. While government officials stood at podiums pledging transformative investments in communities across Britain, those billions somehow vanished without explanation. The Chief Justice's ruling has cracked open this financial scandal, exposing it to public scrutiny in ways the government clearly hoped to avoid. This financial disappearing act isn't happening in some obscure department buried deep within Whitehall. The mismanagement flows from the highest corridors of power, with decisions that can be traced directly to Starmer's inner circle. When questioned about specific allocations, ministers have offered contradictory explanations or deflected entirely, tactics that ring increasingly hollow as the evidence mounts. The economic fallout is already sending shockwaves through communities nationwide. Growth projections have plummeted to a paltry 1%, half of what economists had previously forecast. This isn't just a number on a chart. It represents fewer jobs, stagnant wages, and diminished opportunities for millions of citizens. Meanwhile, inflation continues its upward climb, turning weekly shopping trips into exercises in financial anxiety for families across the country. Perhaps most telling is the sheer number of businesses that have shuttered since the last budget. Over 230,000 establishments closing their doors permanently. Each closure represents livelihoods destroyed and dreams abandoned. all while government officials insist their economic plan is working. The disconnect between Westminster's rosy pronouncements and the harsh reality faced by ordinary Britons has never been more glaring. Even Buckingham Palace hasn't remained untouched by this unfolding drama. Sources close to the monarchy report that King Charles is absolutely furious about the implications of the Chief Justice's verdict. His concern extends beyond mere political disagreement. The king reportedly feels blindsided by the scale of the financial impropriety and is deeply troubled by the potential association of the crown with corrupt practices. For a monarch who has emphasized ethical governance and transparency, this connection threatens to tarnish the institution he's worked to modernize. The public's reaction has been equally seismic. Polls conducted in the days following the verdict show support for Starmer's government in free fall, with approval ratings dropping faster than at any point since the administration took office. The British people, already stretched thin by economic hardship, are increasingly convinced that no one in power is listening to their concerns. There's a growing sentiment that the forgotten majority has been abandoned by those elected to represent them. What makes this situation particularly perilous for Starmer is that the Chief Justice's ruling doesn't just question one isolated decision, it potentially invalidates his very authority to govern, creating the kind of constitutional crisis that Britain hasn't faced in generations. Legal scholars are already debating whether additional government actions could be subject to similar scrutiny, raising the possibility that entire policy platforms might be legally vulnerable. The dominoes continue to fall as scrutiny extends to Starmer's controversial foreign policy decisions. His handling of Ukraine's support programs and the disputed sovereignty of the Chagos Islands now face renewed examination through the lens of this ruling. Was proper procedure followed? Were Parliament and the Crown properly consulted? These questions take on new urgency in light of the Chief Justice's findings. We stand at a crossroads in British history. The ramifications of the Chief Justice's ruling extend far beyond Westminster's corridors, potentially reshaping our political landscape for a generation. This moment demands more than passive observation. It requires active citizenship. Britain faces a defining question. Will the public rise to demand transparency about vanishing public funds and unfulfilled governmental commitments, or will collective apathy allow the nation to drift deeper into economic turbulence? The verdict that sent shockwaves through the political establishment may well be remembered as the catalyst that fundamentally altered Britain's trajectory. The time for accountability is now, and how we respond will determine our shared future.